is going to be a book review. I feel like I've not done like a standalone book review in a while, so I thought I'd bring you one today. Today is a very exciting book. It is The Thursday Murder Club by Richard Osman. If you don't know who Richard Osman is, he's actually a British presenter. That is probably what he's most well known for, being on a show especially called Pointless. He's like very intelligent, knows a lot of stuff, but he's recently come out with his first book, and you've probably heard of it. It is a best-selling book already. It has far surpassed J.K. Rowling's Harry Potter, and he is pretty much the fastest selling fictional author, I believe, of all time. So that is a massive accolade to have. He has already signed up, I think, for at least the next 2 or 3 books, I'm not sure, but definitely the next 2, and this has already had the film rights being sold to Steven Spielberg, so you know that it's going to be a good book when Spielberg wants to take it on. I did get this book from Costco. It was $7.99, which is a pretty good price, so you can find it there, but you can find this pretty much anywhere, even in like your local supermarket. So let's go over the book. I will read you the synopsis and then tell you a little bit more about it. So it says, in a peaceful retirement village, 4 unlikely friends meet up once a week to investigate unsolved murders. But when a brutal killing takes place on their very doorstep, the Thursday Murder Club find themselves in the middle of their first live case. Elizabeth, Joyce, Ibrahim and Ron might be pushing 80, but they still have a few tricks up their sleeve. Can our unorthodox but brilliant gang catch the killer before it's too late? So for me, this had a great synopsis. I love anything sort of murder mystery, suspense, thriller, that sort of thing. And I just thought it was such an unlikely, you know, group of people. It's something unusual, it's something a little bit different, for me at least. I mean, you might have heard a couple of other books similar, but for me this was a totally new plot going into it. It has a ton of amazing you know, reviews on the back. Straight off the bat, I will tell you, I gave this 5 stars. It was very nearly a 4-star, but I did end up just pushing it up to a 5-star, and I will tell you more about that later on. So, like it says, it's set in a retirement complex in Kent. If you're in the UK, you can probably imagine, you know, these little retirement set, like shared accommodation, you know, assisted living flats. That's very common here in the UK. You know, to have these self-sufficient, in a way, elderly people, but they still have, you know, people check in on them, or they have some safety aspects put in, but they can still keep their independence. So I would say it's told from sort of 2 main perspectives, and that's Elizabeth and Joyce. It is a multi-perspective book. You do hear from quite a few people throughout, but I'd say you hear the most from those 2 women. Joyce is the latest woman to come onto Cooper's Chase. That is sort of what the group of buildings are called, and she gets befriended and put into this Thursday Murder Club sort of accidentally, really. You do get which in my opinion was slightly odd, you get like extra diary entries from Joyce, and although it sort of made sense reading it, I did wonder, like, why pick Joyce as this individual to have a diary specific entry. I think it must have just been because she was the newest on the block. But yeah, so it's following not just the 4 characters of the Thursday Murder Club, but the rest of the people that live in Cooper's Chase, and, you know, some of the outside people and factors that come into play with the story. So Cooper's Chase is, like I said, it's on many sort of different plots from what I can gather, and there is a local developer who owns the buildings of Cooper's Chase, and he wants to essentially tear down what I can gather. It was built on an old like nunnery, and he wants to tear down the existing graveyard. And there is a lot of hoo-ha from the locals, and this guy is called Ian, and he's like the head honcho. He has very wealthy money, but you can tell he's sort of a dodgy character. He's in it for the money, not really the people's benefit, in a way. And he has a partner, in a way, and very early on we learn that he wants to cut ties with this partner, and they have an argument, and then later that day his partner turns up dead. and it goes from there. The Thursday Murder Club drop their initial unsolved mystery crime from a couple decades ago, and they start to focus on this crime that has supposedly happened, this murder that's right on their doorstep in their village. I really enjoyed getting to know the different characters in this book. Like I said, it's not just Joyce and Elizabeth. You hear from the whole Thursday Murder Club. You hear from the local priest. You also hear from the two detectives, or police men and women that are on the case, and how they get roped into the Thursday Murder Club, and sort of they sort of go off the record, probably do a couple of things that they shouldn't do, and get themselves mixed up with these elderly people, and probably tell them a couple of things that they shouldn't be doing off the record. There is humour in this book. The old ladies definitely, and the old men really, they definitely use their age. Even though they're like sharp as a tick up there, they definitely use their age to their advantage and like play on it. And it's very, some of the characters are very witty, and so yeah, it does have some humour in it. For me, it wasn't like laugh out loud worthy, but it did, you know, made me chuckle a little bit inside, and it added something else rather than just being a sole mystery book. I feel this is a great book for someone that doesn't usually go for the mystery book, but maybe wants to dip their toes in, or, you know, is looking for a more lighter hearted murder mystery. And all these different characters, they bring something to this investigation from their past life. So I believe Joyce was a nurse, Ibrahim was a psychologist, I believe. So all these different characters, they bring in something to it. I thought Rom was really hilarious. He's sort of like the macho man of the group. You know, his son's a boxer. He used to like, obviously he used to be in that world right off at the start. He says he's a West Ham fan, so I was like, that is a tick in my books. But yeah, I didn't necessarily gravitate to one person of the club more than the other. It was just like, you've got a warm fuzzy feeling for them all, really. So yeah, I will say, and it doesn't tell you on the outside of the book, there is a second murder in this book, and you find that pretty early on about that second murder. What I will say is there is like a riot slash protest, and then someone gets killed, and so we're just trying to decide whether these two are murders are related, who did it, because obviously the second one is very much out in the open. It's all very a bit weird and suspicious, and yeah, there's a lot of red herrings thrown in. You're not quite sure where to place the blame. You think you're alongside with the police people thinking you know who's to blame, and then it turns out to be a red herring. So very intricate book. Not the most intricate murder mystery I've read, but I didn't see the end coming, let's put it that way. I will say the book, it is very nicely wound up. It's not, I wouldn't say it's going to be, it's not like a trilogy where you don't find out what happens until the next book. It's definitely all wrapped up nicely, and it'll be interesting to see in his next book if again it follows all the same characters in the same place, just with something different going on in the village. But for me, this was a real page turner. It was one of those books that I really couldn't put down and like tried to drop all the rest of my plans to try and read. I will say I have a tendency, and it's my own fault, because at the time Darren was watching like this police investigation thing on the TV, so I kind of wasn't completely 100% on the book. I was trying to multitask, and sometimes that doesn't work when you're reading, and I missed a very key point in the book. I'd read it, but it obviously hadn't sunk in, and so I got to the end of the book and I was like, hang on, why did that person murder that person? And my brain was just like all over the place. I was trying to reread it and I was getting really confused and frustrated. I went on social media and put it out there to people to try and help me. I couldn't find a full plot summary anywhere on the internet. It was really, really hard to find any information about anything that happens later on in the book. And I did have to sit up that evening and go back a couple of pages, and it finally twigged that something had happened that I had missed over, and I was like, oh, okay, now it all makes sense. And so for me, it ruined it a little bit, which is annoying because Oh, then that's why I nearly gave it 4 out of 5 stars, because I didn't have that complete satisfaction at the end, that like sense of relief, like, okay, the book's over, we know what's happened, blah, blah, blah. For me, it was like, hang on, I need to go back, I need to reread what's going on, and I was left a bit confused, and that's totally my own fault. That's not, you know, anything to do with how the author wrote it. That was just something that I skipped over, which was annoying. But I did, you know, give it 5 out of 5 stars at the end, and it's probably a book that I'll end up rereading one day. I don't know when the second book is coming out, possibly next year, I want to say 2022, or it could be later on this year, I'm not sure, but I've got a feeling it's next year. But yes, a great book for me to start off 2021 with, and I would definitely recommend it, especially if you're looking for a slightly light-hearted murder, set in like a little quaint British village, and yeah, that is what I thought of the Thursday Murder Book Club. If you've read it, let me know down below. Try not to leave spoilers in case anyone else is thinking about reading this. And yeah, hopefully I'll do some more book reviews soon, because I really enjoy doing standalone books. So yes, and I will see you in my next video. Bye guys.